Congratulations! So you decided to illustrate a book, create a dummy, or perhaps you even got a book proposal from a client. So what's next? How do you create a storyboard, design layout, and how do you give the book this cohesive look with a seamless transition between the pages? Planning out your picture book pages is a crucial stage in designing your book. You need to plan each page to ensure a beautiful and smooth flow throughout the book. It's like a roadmap for your ideas, making the entire process much easier because you just know what comes next. A storyboard also gives you an overview of all of the pages in one place. In the first stage, you create a simple overview of all of the pages in one artwork. This stage is very rough and basic. Here you plan what parts of the story you want to show, and you can change it at any time. That's why it is important to work quickly and loosely. At this point, you don't need to worry about the precise page dimensions and final page size. You can simply create a rough rectangle representing your book dimensions, duplicate it as many as you have the pages. So let's create a storyboard layout together. You can open up a new artboard in Procreate or any other program you use. It doesn't really matter. You can even use a sketchbook or a piece of paper for this. It also really doesn't matter which size your canvas has, just as long as you have enough space for all of your pages. So for that, I will usually go on use the brush that you really like. I will go on with a darker color and just create a rectangle that represents something similar to my final book size. So this one will be just representing the one page. And now I will go on and duplicate to have a double spread. Move it to the right side, snap it together, merge the layers together, and we have one page. Now we can make it even smaller. The average picture book will be having a 32 page. That's why we need to duplicate it a few more times and move it to the side. And you can create as many as you need to, even if you don't have like 32 page book or more or less, it doesn't even matter. I usually combine the one row and duplicate the row underneath it. And do it one more time. Now you can combine all of them, move it to the middle, even a little bit upper. You will start counting with this one. It will be the page number 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Because this page is actually sometimes a half title page, but also if you open the book, this is the page that it is. The first spread will be the one when you open up. It will be some dedication information, so the imprint page, and then it will be a full title page on the right side. So this one will be your first spread, meaning that this is an imprint page, and this one a full title. Usually you will have the title in here and some illustration, and then you will have all of the illustration of those pages. If you're working with a client, they usually provide you with a page size, split specification, and even maybe with a ready-to-go layout. If you're planning to self-publish, you should request your printing size and layout from your printing house, and perhaps even ask if they have a ready-to-go layout, and they probably do have that. But let's discuss how to create your own book layout. Suppose our final book size is around 280 millimeters high and 260 millimeters width. Besides those dimensions, you need to consider the bleed size. The typical bleed is around 3 millimeters, but it can vary depending on the publisher or printing house. The bleed is the area beyond the edge of your page and is crucial to ensure no unprinted edges after trimming. to avoid white borders. The bleed is added on top of the actual book size. This means that the height of your final book layout will be 3 millimeters plus the book size plus the 3 millimeters. And the width would be the same, 3 millimeters plus the book size plus the 3 millimeters. Now that we have our final book measurements, we need to consider the margin. The margin is the safe area inside of the page where important information or content should be placed. For example, text, or in my case, I usually like to include all of the character faces and everything that I think is important in this area. Essentially, everything inside this area will be saved from being cutting off or trimmed off during the trimming process. The margin size can vary depending on the book size, but some recommend going at least with a 12.7 millimeters. I found that the most easiest way to create a layout is to use an Adobe Illustrator, as it allows you to work with the precise numbers and it's just much easier and much faster to create it in there. Also, the best program, and I think probably most used by formatting the books, is InDesign. I don't use it as I haven't needed to format the text for the book at this point of my career. It is also possible to create a layout in Procreate. It is less convenient, but the guides make it easier. So let me show you how to create your own layout in Procreate. So let's create a book layout in Procreate step by step. For this purpose, our book will be 280 millimeters height and 260 millimeters wide. Our bleed size will be 3 millimeters and our margin will be around 15 millimeters. So for it, I will be adding a new canvas, clicking on the plus size. You can use the pixels. I will be going to the millimeters. Before we create our canvas, we need to add all of the numbers together. So we have the width of 260 millimeters, but we also have a 3 millimeters bleed, which means we need to add 3 millimeters on the left side of the page, then plus 260 millimeters of the final book page size, plus 3 millimeters on the right side. The same we will be doing with the height, which means 280 millimeters plus 3 millimeters on top and 3 millimeters on the bottom. So the width of our canvas will be 222 millimeters and the height will be 286 millimeters. I will be leaving it at the 300 dpi. So we create the new canvas, and now we will need all of the important guides in here. So let's go to the settings, to the canvas, and turn on the drawing guide. So the drawing guide is pretty big. For that, we need to go to edit drawing guide and go to the grid size. The grid size is set in pixels for me, so I need to click on it, set to millimeters. And since we have the bleed size of 3 millimeters, I will click the number 3 and done. Now, what you need to do is to zoom in into your canvas and just move your grid to the left or the right side, whatever you like. So the line of the grid will be right on the edge of the canvas. So I need to move it a little bit further, just ever so slightly. And I think even a little bit more, like this. And now what we have our grid set to exact same size as our bleed. So we have the bleed of 3 millimeters and the grid is also 3 millimeters. And to define our grid on the edges of the canvas, we just need to go and use the lasso tool, set the point on the upper edge, and go right to the last one. Close your form and just fill it with a color. At this point, you can just turn off your drawing guide, and now we have a bleed on the left side. Now it's pretty easy. You just select your form, duplicate it, and move it to the other edge of the canvas. Do this one more time. I click rotate 2 times to match the upper edge. and just snap it to the upper edge. Do the same with the duplicate and move it to the bottom of your canvas. Now you have 4 layers which you can merge together and name it bleed. So you have the bleed size, and now we're moving on to the margin. So the space that is very important for all of your important information and everything that needs to be safe inside of your canvas. For that, we will turn on the drawing guide one more time, adding the drawing guide and set it to the 15 millimeters. Now you have to line up your grid with the edge of the bleed, because the bleed is actually on top of your final book page size. So the line of the grid actually needs to be right against the line of the bleed. I think it's perfect. So we click done, and now we go to the lasso tool, going on top of the page, setting the point right there, and then right on the bottom. And now just closing the form. And now make sure you created a new layer, because you don't want to have that on the same layer, as you can edit anywhere. So now we fill it with a lighter gray color, and we can turn off the drawing guide, duplicate the form, move it to the right side until it snaps to the edge of the canvas. Then we duplicate it one more time, rotate it 2 times, and snap it to the upper edge of the canvas, duplicate it one more time and move it to the bottom. Now we can merge all of those together and move it underneath the bleed size. Now we can rename our layer margin. And that's it, guys. Now you have your book layout ready to go with the margin and the bleed size. And now you just can illustrate on top of it. Make sure that your lines go behind the bleed size, because this is the area that will be cut off, and this is the area that is safe for your illustration. So make sure all of the edges are go outside of the canvas. Your storyboard is a powerful tool because it lets you see all the pages at once. This stage is where you plan transitions between the pages, decide what type of illustrations you want to use, where to build tension, create page turners, and show action. Start by opening the story transcript on your computer and start reading it time after time after time and deciding what you want to show on which page. If you're working with a publishing, then transcript is maybe already divided by the pages. For personal projects, you'll need to do these preparations yourself before starting this stage. Thumbnailing your ideas, remember to consider the space for the text. Think of the text as a part of your illustration. It needs to be visible, readable, and well placed. Build your illustration around it. If you leave the text placement for later, you might not have enough place or no place at all. Use simple lines to block out your text. Use different illustration types to bring your story to life. For example, I use double page spreads in the first 2 pages to establish the setting and the mood of the story, helping readers to become familiar with the story's world. On the next page, I typically introduce the character using a vignette or a spot illustration. Generally, double page spreads are great for showcasing new settings, actions, moments of tension. Spots or vignette illustration are ideal to highlight some details, focusing on the elements that are needing more attention, or illustrating a scene with multiple actions. Plan where to use each type of illustration before starting thumbnail. This variety will make your book more interesting and easier to read. To make your illustrations more engaging, use different camera angles. I like to think about my illustration as a part of an animated film. Changing perspective can add more excitement. It is much easier to see the character and the story and the surroundings from all of the different angles. For example, in this illustration of mine, the white dragon meets the little mouse. On the next page, we can even bring more tension by changing the camera angle behind the mouse to show the size difference between those 2 characters. In the page before, we can show the dragon flying in the sky, looking from the ground. Keep your thumbnails rough and first. Focus on getting your ideas down quickly. Details can be refined later. Be fast, rough, and creative. Remember, you can adjust thumbnails in later stages if needed. Also, plan your colors early. Colors as crucial as your sketches. They set the mood and enhance the story feel. I like to start by creating a mood for my colors just to ensure I have a clear vision. Also, use a limited color palette to ensure the cohesive look throughout the book. I've created a free PDF with the book layout and the storyboard template along with the brief explanations. You can find the link in the description below. While working in Procreate, create a new folder for a book project. Inside of the folder, set up a canvas for each page. For pages with a single illustration, spot or vignette illustration, create a single book page, and for double page illustration, create a double page canvas. Of course, check out with your publisher how do they want to have the single illustration delivered to them. Number the page in correct order to keep a clear overview of the entire book in one folder. Next, copy your thumbnail and the book layout into each canvas and work on it further. I usually start by sketching the additional ideas for the page, experimenting with different composition and camera angles for setting for the final concept. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!